Hello, everybody. I am Ken Meister LP, and welcome to our next Let's Play. And before we officially kick things off, I want to go ahead and say I'm terribly sorry for the long delay between this and the project I was initially supposed to, follow up on. But I've had some things come up in life that have kind of killed my motivation, so to speak. Um, I've had some things that have kind of, not really drifted my way, so to speak. But given that there are circumstances that are looking to brighten up here soon, like within my job and all, um, I'm gaining a little bit more optimism, so to speak, in the fact that, Ernesto is kickstarting the channel once again. So, yeah, thank you, Ernesto. I am greatly in your debt. So, uh, instead of immediately following up on Metroid Prime, I want to go ahead and try something that, I told myself time and time again that, I would never bring myself to do ever again, even back in the past. So, I've got two RPG Let's Plays on the channel. There was my Golden Sun Blind project, and then there was Secret of Mana. And if you recall from my Secret of Mana project, if you actually bothered to watch it, that is, that was the very first game that I had played, you know, that wasn't really what I'd call, an oddball RPG. It was like it was basically the game that got me super into JRPGs and made me curious and basically had me delve headfirst into games like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy and all that shit. I just got done playing Persona 5 as we speak, so yeah, I'm always on that JRPG train. It's my favorite genre after all. And basically, what I'm trying to say is I kind of want to get back to that, but I wasn't really certain what I'd start with. But after giving it some thought and consideration, there was actually a game before Secret of Mana that I played. Um, there were games, like Paper Mario and Pokemon I had played beforehand, but they're kind of not really within the traditional JRPG sense, if that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what to say, but there was one specific RPG made by Nintendo and Square that had a more traditional, JRPG vibe to it, and it changed and rocked my world forever. This is the game that made me curious about Square. It was the very first Square Enix game I had ever played, in fact, and this game broadened my horizon, so to speak. So, without further ado, let's get started. Welcome, one and all, to Let's Play Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars by yours truly. I figured I'd get back on that RPG train once again and give this, thought experiment out um, of my head, so to speak. Because really, I told myself time and time again I would never play an RPG again. I would never play an RPG again on this channel. But fuck it, I couldn't contain myself. This is the game that got me into JRPGs. Now, Secret of Mana, I know I stated beforehand, was the game that made me curious about Square and all of the other JRPGs that followed. But, I had played games like Paper Mario and Pokemon, but I really wouldn't call those traditional RPGs in the same sense. But then I picked this game up about when I was 12, I'd say. And this game, even though it wasn't my first Mario RPG ever, this was the game that changed my life forever. I was like, wow. Even though it's not, the same dodge mechanic, evasion heavy, system of games like, Mario and Luigi's Superstar Saga, for instance, it's like, I fell in love with, like, the whole concept of, traditional weaknesses and battle mechanics and, menus, shit of that nature. And I know Super Mario RPG, technically speaking, is very, very basic in those regards. If anything, Super Mario RPG is kind of meant to be as sort of a gateway for most people as their very first RPG, and that really did come to fruition for me. I fell in love with the art style, the music. Oh god, the music. You know, the simplistic, easy to, you know, understand battle mechanics, the weird world and enemies. I thought this game was the greatest thing ever back then, and then I played more RPGs, and then I was like, wait a second. Wait a second. And that's kind of why I feel like games like Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario hold up better, because they have more of an identity. Super Mario RPG, in its sense, did kind of develop trends for the Mario RPG formula, such as like the characters and the writing and all. But it is very much a traditional JRPG in almost every sense of the word. And it kind of made it difficult for me to come back to it years later, you know, after playing all of these other RPGs and games, which is why I kind of wanted to go back and revisit this game as well, because, you know, being the seasoned RPG veteran I am now, I want to ask myself, how well does this game hold up? Is the nostalgia going to get to me? Or is the game going to be kind of a letdown in a sense where I don't like the game as much as I used to anymore, similar to Secret of Mana, you know? So, yeah. Thank God for this long intro, because it's given me a lot of context to work with. And, yeah. I think it's almost over, right? It did kind of technically spoil a lot of the game, so to speak, such as the characters we're going to be running into and all of that stuff, but yeah. And of course, Peach. No Mario RPG would be complete without her, I guess. Or Princess Toadstool. At what point did Nintendo decide to, like, call her Peach? Like, cause I know Peach was technically her Japanese name, so she was always considered Peach. But when was it that, like, you know, America decided to stop, like, calling her Toadstool and just go off of Peach? It kind of reminds me of the Eggman the debacle, you know? Kind of like how, like, Eggman was always known as Eggman, but we here in America called him Robotnik, and then as soon as we started calling him Eggman, it just sort of happened without much of a transitional phase, so to say. You know? It's one of those things. So, let's go ahead and start our new game. Regardless of what you name your file, your main character is always going to be named Mario. And in case you were getting excited about seeing what Mario would be like in action, Mario is, in the traditional sense, a silent protagonist, like most other silent protagonists that come before him. So, but he's got some quirks. He's a mustached man on a mission to go save Peach from the nefarious clutches of Bowser. Just like any other Mario game, right? Though then again, I feel like this is one of the first Mario games in the series that really switched up the formula. Like, I feel like in the way that, you know, Mario 2 USA kind of, like, innovated the series in a weird, unintentional way. I'd say for, like, the characters and, like, the writing and the dialogue and all, a lot of it came from this game. And we're going to be witnessing that as we go into Bowser's Castle. And, you know, all in a day's work. So yeah, this game is isometric based. However, you don't necessarily have to move in a diagonal way. You have free range movement, and that's kind of interesting, so to speak, because like even though Square is basically a seasoned JRPG developer at this point, like I don't think there were really any other games by Square that had an isometric view or had this free range of movement. Like even in games where you had 8-way movement, like you didn't have the characters facing, you know, diagonally or what have you, and it's little quirks like that. So we got our first battle. Pretty impossible to lose, if I had to say so myself. And the game just kind of throws you right into it. And I kind of like that, honestly. Like, I feel like the best way to start an RPG is to just kind of throw you right into the enemy's den. Like, and hell, even other RPGs, to this day are still doing that. Like, Persona 5, kind of threw you right into it, gave you a few enemies to battle. They didn't even start at the very beginning of the narrative either, you know? And I feel like that's the best way to get your players, like, into the game and ask them, hi, this is what the game looks like, this is what the battle system looks like, this is how the movement and shit feels like. Are you into a game yet or not? You know? And I'm not saying you necessarily have to start off every single RPG this way, but I feel like it's one of the most effective methods of starting off a game, you know? You're not immediately bored to tears by, like, just exploring the area, which, has its own benefits and strengths too, but I feel like if you're wanting to get anybody that doesn't care about world building or, like, an enhanced narrative, like, into your game, then this is the best way to do it, I feel. And right here we have our very first boss battle. And you can't say that it's everywhere where you get to fight Bowser on top of chandeliers. But yeah, as Peach is telling us right here and now, our endeavors in fighting Bowser head-on are kind of fruitless right now. So we're just gonna go ahead and take care of the chain right now with our special moves. And yeah, just in case you didn't know, if you keep attacking Bowser head-on, it's going to come to a point where he stops taking damage entirely, and it just becomes a fruitless endeavor, and you're not going to be able to progress forward unless you do what I'm doing right now. Excuse me? Wow, okay. My controller was like acting kind of fidgety for a second. I don't know what was going on there. So as I was mentioning before, as far as, dialogue and writing is concerned, I feel like this is the first time Nintendo actually kind of went out of the way to give Bowser, like, a legitimate character. Like, in every other game, he was kind of like a Saturday morning, antagonist. Like a Saturday morning cartoon antagonist, and, he didn't really go outside the realm of, like, exploring his character outside of, oh, hey, I'm gonna kidnap the princess. Come rescue the princess, etc., etc., etc. But in this game, Bowser is played more as, an egotistical goofball. Like, it's pretty clear that he hates, Mario, but even he has, like, his own, like, inadequacies, like, in terms of, like, how he overestimates the hell out of everything. And definitely kind of lets his ego get the best of him. And this is a trait that carries on not just throughout this game, but like in every other Mario RPG that follows suit. As so. How are you standing on that chain like that? So yeah, in case you haven't been on my channel before, the way dialogue here works is that, like, I'll acknowledge it, I'll respond to it, But really, I'm only going to ever read it if I feel like it. So, just throwing that out there for those who are new to the channel, because I know we've gotten a lot of new followers since recent events, so to speak. But who? Boy, that was not an outcome we were expecting. I thought we were going to get out of here rescuing the princess scot-free, but it looks like this weird giant demon sword thing just kind of popped up out of nowhere, and we have our title logo. So now, this is where things truly begin. That was nothing more than a prologue, and a pretty effective prologue at that, so I have no complaints about that whatsoever. I like how his house is called the Pipe House. It's like they know. They know that he's nothing more than an errand boy. I mean, I don't know. Would you call that a normal entrance? Oh yeah, she was hanging out with us, like, back in the intro and what have you, huh? Oh yeah, just press the B button in case you were wondering what's up with that, because, yeah. Alright, so now we are free to do as we please, and now we have access to the menu. So I want to go ahead and explain a few things here, just to kind of give you guys the broad idea of what's going on here. I'll let Toad explain things later on as we start to get into tutorials and shit. So we have our items, he's got our replenishables and all. We have our status, which tells us all about all of the different things about our character as far as attack, defense, magic attack, and defense stats are concerned, as well as their speed. I'll go more into detail as to how they work later on. We got our special moves. As it is right now, we only have one, and we were using that back in the fight with Bowser to get rid of the chain much more effectively. We have our equipment. Can't have a JRPG without one. And we have our special items, which are basically the key items, more or less, you know, stuff of that nature. And we have our save block. I think I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you very much. In fact, wow, my brother had a file on this? Just to wait, erase this, why not? And I like how they acknowledge Mario for being a silent protagonist too, even though it's kind of indirect. Yeah, see, like, everything you hear in later games about, like, the whole idea of the princess being kidnapped as a joke because everybody's kind of, you know, used to it. I feel like this is the game that, you know, really started acknowledging that, you know? Because every other game before this was kind of either like a sports spinoff or just like, you know, a basic platformer like Mario 3 or Mario World, for instance, where they didn't really have a story, so to speak. In this game, it's like, it's so funny how they acknowledge all of this, and I don't think Square was intending for that to have kind of a rebound effect for, like, later Mario games to follow suit with, you know? Like you always do. He's like, bring the princess back, like you always do. It's like, they're used to it. They know Mario's gonna save the day at the end of it all, you know? Who wouldn't doubt him otherwise? Halt! Who goes there? A trespasser? This castle now belongs to us, the Smithy Gang. It's our first step towards taking over this world. As if it weren't for nosy characters like you. A classic Ted Woosley translation. Over-exaggerating the fuck out of everything. Especially if it involves capitalizing certain pronouns and all. We'd practically own this world, so let's see you deal with this. Oh, classic Ted Woosley. except in this game where, you know, the game has a much more lighthearted, like, approach to its story and narrative, obviously, because, duh, it's a Mario game. I feel like Ted Woosley's translations work more effectively here than, say, in Final Fantasy VI, for example, where I feel like things kind of go a little too far south for me, to the point of where it's kind of hard to find certain plot points and characters as convincing as they should be, you know? In this game, this is right up Ted Woosley's, like, area, in my opinion, you know? No? What happened then? So no, instead of... this is what I love about how they handle, like, the silent protagonist trope. So, basically Mario is a ventriloquist, I guess, and he plays out parts quite literally, and it's fucking amazing, and you're just going to be seeing even more of that as we move further into the Let's Play. So, ouch. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, I just showed you the item screen. As long as you pick up an item and take it to a character, that's all you do. And plus, that's really awesome, is that if you choose to say no, then you get to actually keep that mushroom that he gave you. And plus, the bump only did like 1 hit point's worth of damage anyway, so it's not going to really have much of an effect on you. Of course! What would a JRPG be without them? Timed hits? Okay, this is a little bit interesting. Because this is something that is kind of exclusive to most Mario RPGs, and I feel like even though, well, I wouldn't say exclusive to this game, but it's a trope that definitely carries over into other Mario RPGs. So, obviously, we have our menus, we have your special, your item, your etc. command, and your attack command. If you've played Persona 5, this kind of menu layout will seem very familiar to you. And I imagine most people probably know what Persona 5 is. I mean, hell, you've got so many fucking memes of it all over the internet just portraying the fucking menu, and it's like, wow, okay. So, anywho, time hits, or action commands. So, basically every action, or almost every action you do, whenever you press the button at the given time, you can deal additional damage. And this not only applies to offense, but this applies to defending yourself from enemies and also utilizing your special moves. So press A right here, and the real challenge that comes out of, you know, Super Mario RPG is making good utilization of your timed hits for attacking enemies and defending yourself. Because unlike, you know, Mario and Luigi, for instance, you're not going to be able to just flat out evade everything. You gotta, like, make sure you know when or how to effectively tank hits, you know? But as Toad tells us right here, though, it's not always going to work. For stuff like special moves, because even enemies have access to special moves as well, we're not going to be able to defend ourselves from those, and we'll just have to take the hit outright. So now we have special moves, and as I was saying before, timed hits apply to these as well, but unlike basic attacks, some special moves actually function in a way to where they'll have you do more than just, you know, pressing the Y button at a specific time to utilize it correctly. I mean, think Paper Mario, for instance, where instead of pressing a button at the right time, you have to hold, like, left for a certain period of time before you let go of the hammer. And I feel like this is definitely one of the things that Mario RPG has in its favor, where despite it being a pretty relatively easy game, especially if you've already played RPGs before coming into this one, especially, like, it's definitely one of those things that keeps Mario RPG fresh and engaging. But if you played other Mario RPGs, not other RPGs, Mario RPGs, then this is going to seem pretty rudimentary and basic in comparison, which isn't the game's fault, so to say. It's more so a fact that this is the game that's kind of laying the framework for other Mario RPGs in the future, and this game just happens to be kind of the bare bones equivalent of that. There's a lot to explain, and I'll be getting into that in the next video. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, probably. Alright, so now we have 4 mushrooms on hand. In case you thought I was lying, there's the extra mushroom he gave us. So now we have an even better fighting chance than usual. Though, we might want to heal up just in case, because the FP is very easy to drain, if you couldn't already tell. Like, we used one special move, and we're already down, like, a third of what we had, you know? So, let's go ahead and save now. And, whoo boy, I am super feeling it today. So, next time on Let's Play Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, we're gonna head the Mushroom Way. So see you guys then.